I'll accept the title of first startup in Angola, a more humble title that we started in 2015. And essentially, this is why we created the company to improve digital inclusion, improve internet access to the general population. Well, we have to be careful how we prepare people for the future and what the future should look like. I believe we should give access to the tools, we should give training to the tools, we should improve our education system, but ideally the market will always shift and we can never prepare 100% of the people, right? But in terms of barriers to digital transformation, so I'm working on the access to internet, then we need to work on the access to smartphone.
Hello all, welcome to another Africa Tech Talks. Born and raised in Angola, Paulo Araújo, our guest today, pursued his higher education in England, where he studied mathematics and management at Loughborough University. Upon returning to his home country, he was welcomed into a thriving economy and secured a position as a financial analyst at Standard Bank Angola. His meteoric career trajectory within the bank propelled him to a global markets room where he served as a money market trader. However, his entrepreneurial spirit yearned for more, and alongside his cousin, he embarked on a new venture founding WiConnect. Today, Paulo Araújo is the general director of WiConnect. The challenges he faced as one of Angola's pioneering entrepreneurs instilled in him a desire to support others on similar journeys. This led him to assume the role of Vice President for the Economic and Financial Affairs at AASED, Angola Association of Entrepreneurs and Self-Employed Workers, where he continues to champion entrepreneurship and economic development. Paulo, welcome to Africa Tech Talks and welcome here.
Hi, Victor. Hi, Ivo. Thank you so much for having me on your show. I'm a big fan, and I've been following your episodes every week. So I'm honored to be invited and participate and give a little bit of my story. Hopefully, you can share some light, help, inspire, maybe, if I'm lucky, somebody from a listener that is on your show.
Thank you so much, Paulo. We also follow WeConnect for many and long years, as you were one of the pioneers, or the pioneer, maybe the first digital company in Angola, and that inspired us, and I think that still inspires people. We have many friends in common, many people in common, and we all always heard the story of Paulo as someone that brought that made the trailblazer path as an entrepreneur in Angola. Paulo, without further delays, we would like to know a little bit more about you, about your career. Why mathematic management? Because this is somehow some kind of a different course than just being a manager. And also, what made you start WeConnect? What was the inception? What was the vision of WeConnect, and how did you get here?
Thanks, Andrea, for that question. First, I'd just like to give a little note. I don't think I can take the title of first digital company in Angola because, I mean, we're building on top of a lot of great companies that started the digital transformation before us. And this was actually said by the Ministry of Telecommunications. So I'm just following the same route. So a lot of people came before me, like Darwin said, sorry, with the undersea cables, the infrastructure, the fiber, all of the country. So the digital transformation came way before WeConnect. I'll accept the title of first startup in Angola, a more humble title that we started in 2015. So we have about 9 years old. Starting your first question then, yes, I studied mathematics and management in the UK. I was very privileged to be able to study abroad. One of the few Angolans that had the opportunity to do so. Initially, I wanted to actually just study management or international relations as I was coming out of school. But my father gave me some great advice that if you don't study something more serious, and obviously apologies to everybody that studied the other two, I was having to pay my education. So he said, then we looked at the curriculum or the opportunities together, and he said, look, I think this is a good opportunity. You study mathematics and management. I think this will be a good course for you, and it would differentiate you and put you in a better position to when you go to the job market, which he was correct. We oftentimes, when you're young, try to think we know it all, but the elders actually know a few things, and we should actually listen. And he was right in this case. Going to WiConnect, we started the company, as I said, in 2015. Originally, we started the company because we looked at it into Angola and into the problems of connectivity in the country. And when I say connectivity, I mean only around, in 2015, only around 22% of the population had access to the internet. As of today, the numbers are around 35%. We like to think we contributed a little bit towards that as the country needs to go. And essentially, this is why we created the company, to improve digital inclusion, improve internet access to the general population. And essentially, this is our core, one of our core values or problems we're trying to seek to solve.
So you noticed that there was this need in the country to increase the penetration of internet connection, and so you decided, let me jump into this market. Let me try to help people to connect to access internet, and with the low cost or with the lowest cost possible, so that you could scale this to more people. Thank you. So I will pass now to Ivo, which also has a question.
Yes, I have a very interesting question for you, Paulo. And once again, thank you for being on the podcast today with us. I wanted you to comment a little bit on the challenges of what it is to be an entrepreneur of an African, startup. Just to contextualize, being an entrepreneur, everyone says is already very difficult. The hardship levels are difficult, but some people already say, well, but being an entrepreneur in Africa is in another level. I think I saw a quote about Rebecca in Ochong, which is also a very well-known figure, and she said, you have to be mad crazy, not just crazy, you have to be mad crazy, something like that. It was not exactly on these words, but you have to get an extra level of craziness. Yeah. So you were one of the first startups in Angola. What are the learning points that you can share with our viewers about this?
Okay, so the challenges and the learning points. So I think after 9 years of being in the Angolan market, if I had to point out one thing that has helped us very much in the company, or in order to be an entrepreneur in this country, in this continent, in that sense, is you have to have a lot of grit. Grit, I mean, you have to really go through the motions of the markets, having to put the work in, and having to sometimes, so a lot of the times, do things that you're not sure they're going to work out. So another lesson that I learned very much early on is that even, and this is life in entrepreneurship, even if you do everything correct, you might still fail. I think these are two lessons that I take very much to heart, and I try to since always do better and give value to my clients, but always remembering those two things. Concretely in Angola, if we look at the country, so Angola is still considered one of the toughest places to do business in the world. I think we're ranked in the, let's say, in the top 10 or top 20 of the hardest countries to do business. This is something bad, but it's also something good in the sense that, okay, it's bad because it's very tough. We still have a very bureaucratic environment, which we're working on along with the government. Infrastructure is still a challenge in Angola, but this gives us an opportunity. But it's also good because it gives us essentially a moat. And for competitors to come into Angola and compete with us is very, very tough. And we've seen that in multiple times that even competitors inside trying to copy us is very hard. So this gave us a moat, and if we became specialized in this market, you actually if you become specialized and have success in this market, you become a very strong company because you're tested in every single way possible, and you become a strong company. You have a strong product, and this product is more easily replicated in other geographies, which we found out as we now having clients in São Tomé, in Uganda, and recently now in Guinea-Conakry. So a lot of the problems that we solved in Angola, we see that some of these countries are actually easier, and so we're able to replicate solutions for them. So it's a mixed blessing to do business in Angola and in Africa, but it does make you if you have success, it makes you a very strong entrepreneur, let's put it, in a company.
Interesting. And how has been your experience related to raising funding, accessing talent? Those must be two of the most hot topics, especially in an ecosystem like this. How do you perceive the regulatory environment for your area of activity? Has it been enabling for you, or has it been a challenge? And are you still optimistic about the future? I mean, you must be optimistic, otherwise you wouldn't be your company, as you said. You exist for WiConnect exists for 9 years, going to 10 years, and why are you still optimistic about the future of entrepreneurship or tech entrepreneurship in Angola?
So regarding accessing funds, being open with you, WiConnect has never done a funding round. All our growth has been bootstrapping. So ever since day one, we've just got our costs, put our margins, sold to clients, and between our margins, we reinvested into the company. We've never, until this point, got access to funds. Also, this really was for two main reasons. One, our model really was not proven when we started, and there's very few companies in the world, let's put it that way, if I can be bold enough to say this, that are kind of doing what we're doing. So to explain more about WiConnect and our business model, we essentially took two problems, put them together, and managed to find a sustainable model. I spoke about the problem of connectivity and access to internet in Angola as a problem, but then the second problem that we found, our model, or putting it together, is access to information. So there's a big information gap of companies and governments in our markets in Angola and in our continent. So when we put these two together, we're saying that we found that if we were able, as WiConnect, to give information to companies that we work for, so banks, telcos, insurance companies, governments, the information that they need, that was more valuable to them than paying for internet, right? So they were willing to pay for internet to get this information, or pay for our product. Let's put into it, pay for our product, and which this payment allowed us to give free internet for users, and users gladly gave this information and said, okay, this is worth my time to answer this questionnaire in order to get free internet. Okay, so we found this perfect relationship, let's put it that way, that we can deploy and solve both the problems and make a workable solution for both of them. So with this, when we found our niche and we proved our model actually work, and obviously being transparent, this did not happen year 1, year 2, year 3. This happened in like years 6, 7, and 8, and we actually lost money, and we invested in trying new things and trying new products and reinventing and redesigning a lot of things in the first few years. And we actually lost quite a bit of money in those few years because we had to invest a lot of our own funds, right? But luckily, we were able to survive, and to this day, we're open, and our clients believed in us. And so we were actually also able to grow with our clients. So this is another lesson we learned that is very important, is adapting your product depending on what the market needs. A lot of the times we think we know what the market needs, and we develop things for the market, and we throw it into the market, and the market punches you in the face, right? So it's very hard. Okay, unless you're Steve Jobs and these guys, it's very hard to understand and know what the market needs before the market tells you it needs that. So when we shifted that approach into listening to what they need and developing depending on what they need, we started having some success. In terms of regulatory environment, um, I mean, Angola is still a very tough place to navigate in terms of regulatory, because we unfortunately have the culture of regulating first before doing, and we found this very early on. So companies don't like to take risks, or people don't like to take risks unless the regulator says, okay, you can actually do this. But it's not because of our laws or our government. It's actually based on our laws. You can do things before, if it's not explicitly said you shouldn't be doing it, you can actually do it, right? And we had multiple talks, and sometimes a lot of private companies are actually overzealous on this type of thing. And I guess coming from the banking industry, banking is very much works in that way. If the central bank doesn't say you can, then they don't do it, only until they say you can. But this is a very wrong approach, because it stifles innovation and transformation, right? Because things happen before regulation, right? Regulation comes after. So first, to answer your question, first was mentality around regulation. The second one, yes, it is regulation. For example, we still need in Angola a digital signature regulation to approve. So digital signatures have the same weight as original signature in paper, right? So this is something that stifles innovation. Obviously, we're behind on a few projects. There's a few laws as well that obviously we don't agree, and we try to proactively work with government around them. I mean, I can mention now the law on what's called Bitcoin mining or crypto mining, which is essentially something that came out of the law, which I'm sure the government was not intention, but is that blockchain technology is currently illegal in Angola, and you can go up to 3 years to jail because of this, right? So, I mean, there's two ways. Yes, some things the government does need to improve in terms of regulation, but a lot of things as well is the private sector needs to also get more involved and talk to government, and also maybe sometimes a lot of times take risks around new products and regulation, right? In terms of optimism, yes, I'm very optimistic about the Angola market. Right now, we're actually going through a funding. We're doing an evaluation, and we're going to enter a funding round this year for WiConnect. And so funding rounds or raise debts. We're going to go both of these paths, right? And in 2 years' time, we actually want to be the first startups to list in the Angolan Stock Exchange. So our growth has been double digits in the past 3 years. We've seen, even though a lot of companies are running from Angola because of foreign exchange or bad liquidity or this and that, we've seen that has opened up a lot of space for WiConnect, and we see as very positive some of the steps the government is doing, especially around incentivizing government institutions, government companies to buy locally, right? So there was a decree passed last year. It was 213-13, so I memorized that because it gave me a very good competitive advantage, which was that government companies and government institutions are mandated or incentivized to buy locally or from companies that possess the seal of Made in Angola before they buy out. So this opened up a range of opportunities for WiConnect, and we're taking full advantage of that. So as well, I can share with you, is the first startup to get the seal Made in Angola. This has been fantastic for us because we're the only technology company in Angola with its own brand of access points and software to manage these access points. So that this gives us a very good competitive advantage in relation to our competitors, right? They have to buy Cisco or Huawei or etc. Or WiConnect actually produces its own access points, right?
Okay, thank you. Now I see why you are optimistic about the future. So very good things have been happening, and we've been paying attention to the government and some laws that have been passed, and not just passed but enforced, because sometimes you have the laws.
Mhm.
I think the law for buying local, not the local seal, but giving priority to small and medium businesses already existed for quite some time, but I think it was not being really enforced. But with this new wave, I think governmental institutions and public companies are paying more attention to that, and that's definitely a good thing.
And
Um,
even just to give you, sorry to cut you, just give you a concrete example. For example, we're right now in FOSI, so the Institution for National Information and Technology. They belong to the Ministry of Telecommunications. They actually gave us the opportunity to contribute to the Angola Online project, which is a project to give free Wi-Fi to citizens worldwide. And we're one of the distributors or of this project for access points. So INAPAM as well gave us projects around PRAY, which is a project for conversion of informal to formal markets. There's another 2 projects from the government that they're requesting us. There's RFI, request for information, for WiConnect as well, because we're Angolan company, technology company, and seal made in Angola. So this is actually, it's like, it just goes to your point, right? It was a law, and it's being actually having direct impact on the market, which is good, because then WiConnect hires Angolan people. We expand in Angola. We expand outside of Angola, and we take the flag of Angola and actually bring resources back, right? And this is what you need from startups in your country.
Very
Allow
interesting.
me,
Thank you.
allow me just
Yes.
to make this is pure curiosity, but whenever you're going into the founding realm and you want to fund a company, what is your opinion? Now that I'm sure that you thought about it, what is your opinion on should you try to get funds in an initial part of the constitution and the build-up of the company, or whenever you're already established? What do you think that validates more your idea and your development capability?
So in my personal opinion, I'm very critical about the amount of time a lot of countries, institutions spend time in trying to find funding mechanisms or financing mechanisms for very early on companies when they have no financial history, transactions, because it is very hard to finance companies early on. Obviously, you have VCs, you have these kind of institutions, but just bringing back to our reality, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think it's more how can I say this? It's more realistic, and I defend more trying to create a market for companies, and then having those companies sell their products in this market, having that historical sale or finance, and then go for financing. This has happened to WiConnect and has worked. And
Mm-hmm.
obviously, this is from my personal experience. I have been WiConnect, and this is the way I see it as a more viable solution for us. So one of the things that we defended, we can talk about this later on, in the law, is that we need to create a market for companies. So when, for example, Banco Buy, which is our biggest client, when he buys from WiConnect, our margin is essentially an investment that we have inside a company, right? Our margin allows us to hire more people, invest in our project, invest in our product, and expand that way. And it's easier for Banco Buy to buy services from me than it is for them to do a full credit analysis to give me money, right? So I defend that it's better for big companies to buy from smaller companies and from startups to create that history than it is to find ways to finance all these companies in using traditional means or any other way, right?
Mm-hmm. So you're a supporter of financing companies through giving them work, through testing them in the real world, rather than funding them and then wait for them to develop into something. Okay, because that was
exactly right.
something that was. Yeah, Ivo was
Sorry to just
talking
cut you
about
off, Andre.
how the future No, don't worry. I was
Yeah.
telling you that Ivo was referring to the way that you saw the future. So I understand that to see the future, many times whenever you have a VC or you have any kind of other company that finances a startup,
Mhm.
the person that finances or the institution that finances the startup, they already have some kind of idea that, oh, they're going to develop in this way or that way. And in your case, you're a fan and a supporter of giving them work so that you can grow more organically, like you did, and
Ex-
that's probably why
ex-
you have that experience.
Exactly right. And I think it's a better way in the sense that, I mean, you can have the best pitch deck, you can have the best, what's it called, mentorship, best business plan, best everything, best idea. But then you go to the market and the market doesn't want your product, right? So, and this happens a lot of times. And at the end of the day, companies exist to solve problems, right? So if you're not sure the problem you're solving is worthwhile, then you shouldn't really go to the whole process of putting financing, putting these rails, and because then and sorry to be critical of this, then you see examples like in America, you find financing for companies that make no sense, right? Have no product fit, but yet they get financing. And this is my personal opinion, but look.
Yeah, but now, for instance, Paulo, even venture capital money is being way more sensitive about this, and the ZIRP or ZIRP era, zero interest rate phenomena is a little bit over, and even if you get venture capital money or private equity money, they want to see the structure of your company. Are you making money? Are you cash flow positive or not? So being cash flow oriented since the very beginning seems to be a very good strategy, so to speak.
Philosophy.
Even if you're not intending to raise money, right? Because some years ago you were measured raising money, not essentially what's your revenue. It's not your revenue, that doesn't matter. How much you raised, right? People are more interesting. Oh, I raised 1
Yes,
million, 2
yes,
million,
yes,
10 million dollars,
yes,
and not necessarily people were not very worried about if you're making money or not. So this is very interesting.
yes.
But I will pass to Victor because Victor, he's a little bit curious about data, right, Victor?
I, Thank you, Ivo, and hello, Paulo. Great to see you again after a while. Regarding data, and you have already mentioned that the company is becoming not only a connectivity company but also a data company. Yeah, as an important area that you are developing now, and we know that data collection is an issue in Angola and in Africa in general. How is WiConnect doing, working out to overcome this gap of data collection, quality of data in Angola and in the countries that you are already operating?
Thanks, Victor, for that question. So I can give you a specific example of what we're doing for Banco Bay, which is the biggest bank in Angola. We have we set up a free Wi-Fi hotspot in all their branches, right? And before users can log in, they need to evaluate the service, they need to answer a questionnaire, they need to answer an open question. And all this data we gather around all these data points. Let's consider Wi-Fi hotspots essentially as data points and really not Wi-Fi distribution or internet distribution centers. That's the way WiConnect thinks about it, is that they're data collection points, right? So in all these data collection points, we gather all this information and we put it in our dashboard that was developed by us and in a structured way that the bank in real time can see what Victor is saying in Lubango, in Willa, how is he evaluating the service? What is he saying about the products he's seeing? Why is he at the branch? How many times does he visit the branch per week? And we're able to get all this data in a passive way that the user is happy to freely give to us, right? So this is the way we're helping companies like Banco Bay take data-driven decisions because they can listen to Victor every day, wherever Victor is around the country, and understand what the collective needs and understand specifically what Victor needs, right? And all in a structured way. Because if you think about doing this in the traditional form of doing even customer satisfaction, so banks right now, it's a big problem to do customer satisfaction around all the branches. If you have over 100 locations nationwide, to do this process every month, let's put every year. Let's put every year is very complicated, right? You have to put teams. The teams have to go there. They need to bother the client. The client is there because he wants to solve something at the bank. He has no patience to answer all this questionnaire, etc. Right? With WiConnect, the bank can do this every day or every month, get the information in real time, and take decisions when that data is still relevant, right? So this is the way we're helping clients do this. And furthermore, we can actually help our clients, so like Banco Bay, reach Victor even after he leaves the branch, which is also very important. So I understand, one, what Victor wants, what he needs, what he says, and I can reach Victor whenever I need to.
Great, great. Yeah, in fact, you are becoming more and more a big data company, or a company dealing with this huge amounts of data. How do you envision WiConnect moving forward? Is more and more specialized in this field, and the connectivity being just a commodity?
Exactly right. I see. So my dream for Angola, for Africa in general, is to make internet completely free. I think it's the only viable way to give internet connectivity to the most of the population. So if we consider that majority of Angolans, our average income is around $27 per month, right? And if we compare that to the monthly cost of internet in Angola, and if we consider that Angolans need to have internet the whole month, and everybody consumes around, on average, year around the world, 6 gigabytes of data per month. It's to have, for the average Angolan to have internet the whole month is above $27, right? I mean, we can all agree on that. We can discuss, okay, prices of this, prices of that, internet, but it's above $27 to get internet the whole month, right? So we see that as a problem to solve, and you can only solve it to give free internet for the whole population. Because if we give free internet for the whole population, it is common consensus that internet drives economic progress, right? So we see that in countries, in more developed countries, Western or Eastern, we see that internet contributes about 5% to the overall GDP. If we translated that into Angola, and we assume that the Angolan GDP is around 100 billion, that would mean $5 billion the internet should be able to contribute to our GDP, right? And that's real economic development. So what we see is, to answer to your question, internet needs to become a commodity. The whole world is going towards this. So all the investments doing in cables, through Facebook, Angola cables, Google, etc., internet will go to zero. This is a fact. So we're positioning ourselves and assuming that it will go to zero, to become a completely data analytics company, in the sense, and the way we want to grow is we already incorporated AI tools in our system. So whenever we get all this all data collection from all these data points, the AI actually analyzes the information and gives you the final report and information. So it's helping you process information faster in order for people to make better decisions. We're even going further now in our data collection points, our hotspots. We tailor advertising depending on gender, age, and location, even access point. We want to go even further and do an algorithm that changes the data, changes the advertising in real time for every user, right? This is the way we want, because the bank needs to, and we see the whole world going to this. Victor needs to have his own experience with companies around the country. Everybody needs, like Twitter, like YouTube, you have your own personalized experience, which is different to everybody. And we need to reach at that level for marketing and our products as well. So this is the way we're going in, and the gap we're trying to fill.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, and that's way. Data is the new oil or the new gold, as is common to say.
So
Okay, thanks, Paul.
just to give you some perspective, so just to give you some more perspective, Victor, right now WiConnect has over 600,000 registered users in our database, right? So, and with data coming in from these users, we can actually start predicting models as well of behavior, right? And in certain locations, which also contributes obviously to the algorithm, but I forgot to add that part. So the bigger we become, the better as well we can, and more value we can give to our clients around data.
Great. I will now hand over again to Ivo. We'll ask you about digital inclusion and also some of the economic development that you already mentioned.
Yes, Paulo. So my question for you is regarding digital inclusion and economic growth. You already answered part of my question, because one of the goals that WiConnect has is to provide free internet access to the majority of the population, or if not free, almost free internet, right? Data plays a big part on that, and certainly your startup utilizes the network effect. So the more customers you have, and the more places you are in, the more value you can provide your end customers, or or corporate customers, like you were mentioning, Banco Buy, for instance, right? So the more people you get in, the more data you have, the more value you can provide to those customers. But digital skills and digital literacy is a very important part on this, right? Um, this is still a challenge here in Angola. I'm seeing across the continent, one of the very cool initiatives that I've seen taking place, for instance, in Nigeria, is the 3MTT initiative. So it's an initiative they want to train 3 million Nigerians in digital skills. So since programming, graphic design, and whatever, they are in the first or second phase of their program, and I think it's a very interesting idea. But it's not. This is not a program just that the government's 100% the government. So the government is just the maestro of the things. So it just enables and fosters the private sector to participate, and also, the young people that want to get new skills, they can get skilled in those areas. So it's very interesting, because they are not replacing the traditional role of the private sector, it seems to me, but they are enabling it. Okay. So my question to you about the digital inclusion and economic development would be, on your perspective, what are currently the biggest barriers to foster or to promote digital inclusion in Angola, or the other countries you're already operating? Because you already mentioned that WiConnect is already present in 2 or 3 or 4 countries, right, here in the region. Would be interesting to hear if you find the same things there or not, easier, not so, or not. You already said, what is your view? What is the government role on this, on your perspective, to promote digital literacy, okay, and inclusion? And do you see that this is also could be a risk? So not connected people, we could even widen the gap between the connected and the not connected, because there's still a thing, right? So a lot of people are still not connected. So how do you view this? So biggest barriers to digital inclusion, the government's role in your perspective on all of this, and if there are any risks once we go further. Are we leaving people behind? Are we widening the gap or not? What's your vision on this?
Yeah, thanks for that question, Ivo. Normally, I try to get away from this question, run away, saying that I have one problem already that I'm solving, right? So I'm putting the highway and the bricks, and then somebody else has to make the cars, That's the digital inclusion part, but I'll give my take on it. So what we see around this problem at the moment is that we have around 33% of the population is connected. They say statistically that around 55% of the population have phones. The other 45 don't have phones. The way I would tackle that would be, and the government obviously has projects around this that I've seen in APAM and before it was MEP, so Ministry for Economic and Planning, is to improve access to smartphones in the country. And the way we do that is to start financing smartphones here, right? You should be able, it's still, it's not viable to have digital transformation in Angola if you have to pay for smartphones for the whole price, right? You can't fractionally pay for it through your airtime, for example, like we see in many geographies. Okay, we need to put that in place. Let it be telcos, let it be governments, let it be private initiatives like banks that you can sell to bank branches, but that needs to be in place so more people can have access to smartphones. I'm a believer that we should skip the phase of having analog phones and then going to digital phones. I think if there's solutions now, especially because of the high illiteracy rate we still have in Angola, it's easier to bring these people online through digital phones because digital phones gives a variety of solutions for this segment of the population, right? So we saw, I read a study recently that I believe it was WhatsApp that saw this in Brazil. There was a specific region that people didn't send texts when chatting WhatsApp. They sent audio notes. And they wanted to find out, okay, why exactly these people send audio notes? And they saw that there was actually a high illiteracy rate in that part of Brazil, but people got around it through sending these notes in the chat, right? So in terms of and obviously we'll disagree on this, in terms of financial literacy and digital literacy, I don't believe there is in Angola. A lot of the times companies like to blame users or the population because they don't know this, that, but to get around badly designed products. Obviously I might get pushback from that, but this is actually what I believe. I think if you design products well enough, users should be able to learn and everybody should be able to access. I mean, WhatsApp is an example of that. Apple is an example of that. They have their products all around different regions and people can use it. Even a kid, I've seen my niece when she was 2 years old able to use a iPad, right? And nobody can claim that she didn't have any digital literacy or she had studies. Then again, okay, this is one part. The second part, I do believe in projects like what Nigeria is doing. When I went to Rwanda 5 years ago, they were busy setting up co-working spaces to give, and they give courses freely for people to do programming and education. But now, I mean, with AI rising up, and even the NVIDIA CEO said that in 5 years' time, programming will essentially almost cease to exist, right? So, so we have to be prepared, or we have to be careful how we prepare people for the future and what the future should look like. I believe we should give access to the tools. We should give training to the tools. We should improve our education system. But ideally, the market will always shift, and we can never prepare 100% of the people, right? But I do believe we should bring the barriers down. In terms of, I think I answered most of your question there, Ivo. In terms of barriers to digital transformation, so I'm working on the access to internet. Then we need to work on the access to smartphone. I still have a lot to grow from 35 to 55, right? So it's not a problem. I'm thinking about it yet. And then after that, so smartphones, after that, we need to do payments. So it's beyond me that to this day, we don't have a very good online payment solution in the country. I mean, we're the 21st century, right? So we need to definitely improve that. It's very hard to establish a payment solution for apps or websites currently in Angola. Yes, they've done a lot of solutions they put in place, but it's still very hard, right? And this can be if you really want to do digital transformation. So in my opinion, these three things need to be worked on, and obviously we're working on a little part of that problem.
Thank you, Paulo. We'll definitely need to have some of the stakeholders on that field here in the pod, the payment solutions, people who are providing services like digital wallets or digital payments, even people that from EMIS, which is the interbank entity, you know, that is trying to put the glue in order to facilitate payments between different forms of digital money, right? So you can send mobile money from an operator account to a bank account and vice versa. We need to, Andre, we need to put this in our agenda. We need to bring some people on this area so we can complete the puzzle. But I feel you, Paulo.
Already. We had one
we
already.
Had one. We need more. We need more.
We need more already.
People. We need more people.
Paulo knows him very well. We were in a few meetings with the same person. But we need definitely to fulfill more
interesting
space with people from the payment area for sure.
Now, Andre, back to you. Thank you so much, Paulo, for your insights.
Thank you. We're almost at the end, although I feel like we could be talking for a couple of hours more. We usually do that, but I have a question that I really need to pose you, which is related with our with the new startup law that is coming. We already talked with Morato, who presented us the skeleton of the startup law, and he did a wonderful job explaining it. We talked with Lisa afterwards, that already explained also how it worked. But and lately we've been talking, and you've been also giving some feedback on how it's evolving, and which obstacles are you still dwelling with. And I would like to know a little bit more on the state of the startup law, if you want to share, of course.
Okay, just for the benefit of the user, I'll just give a brief overview. Maybe they didn't see the other podcast.
Sure.
So basically, the startup law was an initiative by the government, so MEP and INAPAM, in order to address essentially 4 critical issues that startups have here in the country. One was a legal ambiguity. So there's a lot of there's not a clear definition what a startup in Angola is, so we're confused with small companies, medium-sized companies, small what's called micro companies, companies in the early phase, this, that. Okay, so it's very important that we have a legal framework of what a startup is, like other geographies are doing. So in Angola, they're gonna exist a startup, a small company or micro company, small company, medium, and large company. This is a very important, because with legal definition then comes clarity. With legal clarity, then the investors from abroad can come in and clearly identify what a startup is. Because there has been instances in the past where these investors came to Angola and they were showing essentially maybe like company like a restaurant, right? A small restaurant, obviously not directly a restaurant, but companies like this that don't integrate well in what a startup is. So this doesn't help us as a country, right? So when we get this legal framework, it's going to help us. The second part that we want to solve is around access to markets, what I briefly spoke about. So we want to incentivize the government institutions and big companies to buy from startups, and there's going to be and invest in startups. So there's going to be articles around this law that incentivize big companies and governments to get involved with startups, because startups, one, is high risk companies, but they have also a potential for very high returns and high scalability. Okay, so this is the second part. The third part is access to capital. So there's articles in there that we want to solve, that startups will have special mechanisms in order to access capital, in order to grow more. So a bit of the part that we discussed in the beginning. And the fourth one will be tax incentives, because one of the things I defend in every single room I'm in with the legal part of the government, with economy, with everything, is that our tax system in Angola does not foster innovation and does not foster economic growth. We have a high tax effective tax rate for small companies or medium below companies here in Angola. So the effect, we did a study and we showed this to the financial authorities, that a company that has a yearly revenue of 100 million kwanzas, to simplicity's sake is $100,000, has 4 employees. If they're completely legal and have everything done, they're losing money. If they're making money, they're not completely legal. And this was done in an Excel sheet, which is very clear. So we need to really bring the taxes down in order to foster, one, the informal sector coming to the formal sector, and incentivize entrepreneurs to come to this forum. So essentially, these are the 4 problems that we see key in order to foster a startup ecosystem here in this country. The law currently, to answer your question directly, is currently still being debated in the Economic Council of the government. Awesome. The Forum, Economic Council, and they are debating specifically around the tax initiatives that we're asking for in the startup. Which one thing good is that we're having really great engagement with the government. We are able to participate in many high-level meetings as I said, right, as the association, and we're able to influence directly policy. Also, I believe I can say this, maybe I'll get in trouble, but what we're asking for is very, very aggressive in terms of tax breaks to the government. And this has been, well, not a bit of problem, but it does need very good clarity, because in our vision, we want Angola to be the most competitive market for startups to set up a business in the Southern Hemisphere. And this comes down to all the entrepreneurs in the association. We don't want to be just good, right? We want to be excellent. We want Angola to be the best place in the Southern Hemisphere that startups create companies, right? And so we need to be more aggressive. And also in Angola, right now, we have a very high unemployment rate that if we don't address this problem, it is going to cause issues for us in the long term, or the medium to long term. So every year that we have young people with high unemployment rates creates potential issues for us. So we urgently need to create companies, urgently need to create jobs in order for social stability and economic diversification. And to do this, we really need to be aggressive because the current model that we have on tax incentives is designed for big companies. It's not designed for small companies. And to have economic stability or an economy, economic stability, to have an economy that is stable, that is kind of repeating myself, you need to have a lot of small companies and very few big companies, right? It makes no sense that big banks and oil companies have an effective tax rate, which is less than 10%, when medium companies to below have over 50%, to not say 80% effective tax rate, right? So this is something I hammer every single forum I'm in. I speak about this, because if we don't solve this, we're not gonna have success.
So we can say almost like dealing with the mathematics manager for the government institutions is going to be complicated, because you're going to do all the Excel sheets and you're going to prove your point across the board. But it's interesting that you bring all the information and gather all the information in terms of how to effectively understand how a company works and how much taxes does a company pays, so that you can have that discussion in an informed way in order for the discussion to be more productive. And I think that it's very important that people like you, and I understand that you don't like to be involved in this kind of situations. You're involved because you felt the pain, and so you became also a part and a member of this movement, of this association. Um, and this brings this challenge to you, and this kind of also the love for the country that you have. You want to make Angola, maybe, I don't know if you want to create. I don't want to say El Salvador here because I'm going to have some kind of a confusion. But you have some kind of an El Salvadoran mind, and you want to create some kind of a place where it's more attractive for companies, more attractive for startups to start a business in Angola than in any other region in the southern hemisphere. I don't know if it's southern hemisphere or if it's in Africa. I don't. We still, because I understand that these days with Argentina being so liberal, it's going to be interesting. I think Elon Musk yesterday was on Twitter praising Argentina, right? So
Yes,
we're
yes,
going to
yes.
compete. We're going to compete with Argentina as well.
And this seems to the belief that we, as a country, we need to believe that we can do it, and the people that have the power, especially my generation, the power, that's not the power, have the possibility to influence policy in a way that's productive to the country should do so. But to the credit of the Angolan government as well, if when we manage to do this, so I'm already saying being positive, and we're going to do this. We have done this in around 2 years. So, and we've compared that to other countries in Africa, like South Africa, have been struggling with this for many, many years. So I mean, I was speaking to guys from international banks. They were very impressed that we got as far as we have in such little time.
Mm-hmm.
So one thing good about the Angolan government is that they're very approachable. It is possible to have open dialogue with them, but it is important to have it in a structured way, because government is a structured and serious institution, right? It serves nobody's purpose to be a revolutionary on Instagram. Let's put it that way, right? We need to really start doing things in a structured way if we want to change things and make the country better. And I think it is possible. And going back to El Salvador, yes, it's a big inspiration to me. I mean, El Salvador 10 years ago was the most dangerous place in the world, or one of the most dangerous places, murder capital of the world. And today, it's one of the safest, has the most rapid economic growth. Let's put it that way. You have mass immigration from Canada and America to El Salvador, right? So it just shows that good economic policies and good structure does bring economic development. Yeah. And one thing I also like to touch on a lot is that as Angolans, we need to really understand and educate ourselves what really wealth and being rich is. Being rich is not having $1 million in the bank and being able to buy Gucci or Prada, or going to south of France for vacation, right? Being wealthy is being the owner of Gucci, or let's say Gucci Africa, or Gucci, or let's say Nadir Tati. Nadir Tati, she's a cousin of mine, and she produces what's it called, fashion here in Angola. So being rich is able to produce what she's producing, sell to people outside the country, and when they show off spending millions of dollars, they spend it in our brand, right? I have no issue of people spending $1 million, $2 million, $3 million in restaurants, champagne, and stuff. All I ask is you spend it on Angolan. This is what we need to educate ourselves on.
Yeah, I fully agree. Being rich and being wealthy, not rich, being wealthy is creating wealth, and also making the people around you more wealthy. And I think that's where you wanna go with this. Before we go, and I have Ivo seems like he wants to say something.
Yeah, I want to say something. So Paulo, just before we're reaching an end on our beautiful conversation, I just wanted to share with you some of you already have them, some of the questions that our viewers and followers have posed on Twitter, X, sorry.
Sorry,
These
Alan.
are three questions. Sorry, Elon. Yeah. So this question comes from Leocadio Machado, and his questions are: how do you ensure the security and privacy of users accessing your free Wi-Fi network in Angola? Second question: what strategies do they employ to cover the costs of providing free Wi-Fi to the public? And three and last question: how do you navigate? WiConnect navigates regulatory challenges and ensure compliance with local laws and regulations regarding public Wi-Fi access.
Okay. So to answer the first question around the privacy and security, look, WiConnect, we developed our own firmware that runs these access points. So this gave us flexibility in order to essentially close all the doors that we saw in traditional, let's say, access points, that is some of the brands that we saw. And also we take the best possible, we ensure we take the best possible policies in order to provide free Wi-Fi. For example, users can't find each other in our network. We do put our firewalls in place in the cloud. We did get certification from security companies around our products. But can we stop actors that were able to go into the France Ministry of Defense or the UK Ministry of Defense? Look, probably not, right? But we are dealing with free Wi-Fi. So that most likely these type of people won't be interested in going through into our network. But we do take all the possible precautions, and we did proactively work with the government. So we got a certifications from Infosi for our platform and our access points. We got a certification from the Data Protection Agency, which had a look at our architecture and our servers. We did do penetration tests of our equipment. So look, we manage what we can cover, we have covered in terms of user security and privacy, right? And also one of the things we believe in, we don't put like data capture software or packets in our access points. So whenever you log into our solution, we don't do this because we want to be an ethical company as well, right? And we want to feel secure. So all the data you give us is voluntary data, right? And this has been worked out pretty well for us so far. What strategies we employ to give free Wi-Fi to the public? I think we talked a little about this already in the podcast. So we essentially are yeah, sorry, I kind of cut off. So we provide this for corporates, and we see, and they see that the cost that we charge is higher, or the benefit they get is higher than what they pay in order to have the solution in free public Wi-Fi. So solving two problems at once, and this is the way essentially we're able to give free public Wi-Fi, and that has been working for us. I'm not sure. I think I've answered the question already. And in terms of navigating regulatory challenges in Angola, look, I can proudly say that WiConnect is the most compliant, or one of the most compliant companies in Angola. We try to speak with all the regulators, proactively get all the licenses possible, and we try to engage with them in the sense when we feel that something is not correct or not viable, we try to proactively engage with them in order to change it. But we do try to stay as compliant as possible and proactively, a lot of the times, speak to regulators directly. We used to have this And I'll be transparent and open that even in WiConnect in the beginning, we were very afraid of government, and you should be very wary and not talk to them at all. And I mean, government people are just people. And a lot of times, if you are transparent with them and tell them exactly what you're doing, a lot of the people we've found are quite happy to give advice and say, okay, maybe do this, do that. Our model is very new, so obviously we got a few licenses that, in order to cover us, that we got incentivized by the government. Other than that, we haven't seen any issue. The government has been quite let's say nice or open with us, and we've never had any issue with them. I think so the message is just be open, speak to them. If anything, you have the letter with them and saying, okay, you don't need anything else, and you can defend yourself with that, right? But the best example is just to be open and transparent. And everybody likes free Wi-Fi, so we're not.
Everybody likes free Wi-Fi.
Yeah, so, yeah.
Yeah, but one of your advices I stick with is don't just be a social media activist and just complaining the government is not doing this and that. Actually, you can get things from the government if you engage in a way that is structured, because we've talked about this before recording this podcast. It's almost if you engage with a governmental body, you send a letter. Yes, letters still physical, right? Letter. They will engage with you. They will receive you. They will hear you. It doesn't mean that it will solve all your problems, but at least they are. I also agree with you. They are regular people just like us, and I think generally most people will try to engage positively with you and give you good advice. Hopefully, we find lots of that people in all governmental bodies. Paulo, thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for sharing your insights, your experience with us. WiConnect is a real inspiration for the startup scene here in Angola. You guys are turning 10 in some months, I think. No, or we still have a full year ahead.
February next year.
Next year. Okay, so
yeah.
We'll be here. Hopefully, you'll get on the pods on that month. You'll have some great news to share with us, and we'll speak again. Thank you so much, Paulo. Thank you for all of you that are listening to this podcast. I don't know if you are Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, you name it. Thank you for following us. Just don't forget, visit our website, africatechtalks.com. Go and search for our episodes, like the episodes, share them on social media, subscribe to our channels, because it will help us a lot. Thank you so much, guys, and see you next time.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Paul.